Well, Razorback fans, you're probably wondering, what's the holdup with Ron Holland? Why is it taking so long for him to make a decision when it seems like Arkansas is inevitable? Well, let's give you the reasons on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I'm also the host of Out of Bounds. You can catch every weekday afternoon from 1 to 4 on 103.7 The Buzz and 103.7thebuzz.com. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Thursday as getting ready for the weekend of Razorback baseball. Going to be up in Fayetteville, so it should be a great one. But it's funny because we still talk about basketball. And I know that we're going to get to some questions, or a question, I should say, that was asked to me by one of you on Twitter, and also get a little football too. But the Ron Holland thing, which is amazing because I feel like we talked about it just weeks ago. I think it was just last week. And him coming to Arkansas and how it looks pretty likely, at least at this point in time. So why is it not happening? Why have we not heard anything from it? Well, it has been kind of a process when it comes to him getting out of his national letter of intent with Texas. And this actually comes from 24/7 Sports, where they did a great breakdown of it and kind of dived into what's been going on. But apparently he's waiting to get his release officially from Texas, and it hasn't been granted. And this is, again, according to 24/7 Sports, says it doesn't sound as if Texas is trying to hold up Holland. Their administration is just making sure there hasn't been any foul play. And something that apparently Coach Terry there at Texas are trying to retain him, but doesn't look like it's going to be the case, especially now that they're getting some other transfers that are coming in as well. Because he has requested his release, the recruiting ban on Holland is lifted and schools are free to recruit him. While any program would love to have him, the two options outside of Texas that continue to come up most often are Arkansas and the G League. Of course, Arkansas landed Nick Smith last year, #1 player, as well as Anthony Black and Jordan Walsh. And word is that those two have been very positive, talking about Black and Walsh, about their year in Fayetteville, and it has been very helpful to Eric Musselman and the Razorback cause. While Holland will have to get his release from Texas to play at Arkansas or any other school, there's nothing stopping the G League Ignite program from trying to get him to go to the professional route, and they've long been targeting Holland and continue to do so. So he's still trying to figure out, or they're trying to work through the whole situation of getting out of that national letter of intent and heading over to whether it's Arkansas or whether it's the G League Ignite. That's what's really is going to happen. In fact, that's the question is like, he can't discuss anything publicly, and we're just kind of waiting and seeing. But based on the information that's available, Arkansas, G League, and Texas appear to be the options that he'll ultimately choose from, while some are leaning towards Arkansas being the option there. So that's what's the hold up with Holland, is it's not any sort of, bad thing where, there's some sort of just maybe some news that was getting broken or that people were talking about that was false, or maybe it was all just a big phony lie or whatever it is. Like, that's what the deal is he's trying to get out of his national letter of intent for Texas. And this is, again, going through why I believe it's going to be Arkansas. It's because, as was just mentioned there, you can go to the G League Ignite without having to get out of your national letter of intent. Like, you're just like, okay, well, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to go to the G League because it's not a university. He wouldn't be trying to get out of his national letter of intent if he was just going to go to the G League. He's trying to get out of it because he is going to Arkansas. That's what I get from it. And I think that's what most people believe and most people see is coming from it as well. And it's so funny where this story has, of course, been one that Razorback fans have been very fascinated by and interested in, because we know the type of player that he can be, which we'll talk about in just a second. But here's the thing that kind of frustrates me. And I had this on my show, my radio show yesterday, and I wouldn't say I got frustrated, but it was more like I think it's just where your mindset's at. It's where you're coming from. I obviously am someone who comes from a college sports fan favorite. Like, that's my thing. I love college sports. I think there's a lot of value in college sports, but I also understand that in professional sports, of course, there's the money. Now, if you're going to want to watch the highest level of talent and competitiveness, professional sports is going to be for you. However, I believe college sports to be more fun. I think college sports are more fun. I think it's more fun for the bigger stadiums with the student sections, the big arenas, student sections involved, the rushing the fields, rushing the courts, the rivalries, the traditions, the coaches, the games that go way back. Like, I just feel like college is such a great and fun thing to be a part of and to watch. Again, not saying it's a better product as far as the talent on the floor and the capabilities on the floor or on the field or whatever. But when it does come to fun, to me, it's the most fun. And so yesterday on the show, it was being discussed, and everyone's like, I was talking with Pat Bradley, former Razorback, and he was saying that, if you're, Ron Holland, or if you're these guys that are Devo or whoever, it's like, if you have an opportunity to do something professionally, you're going to do it. Even if you don't get drafted, even if you don't go to the NBA just yet, or if you go to the Ignite G League, or if you go, overseas or whatever, that's what players would rather do than stay a year in college or another year in college. And so I was like, well, with the NIL though, I think it's changed a lot of that. And, he disagreed, and that's fine. But that's kind of what I was looking at when I'm like, okay, if you're a player, and it's the same case with Ron Holland, and it'd be the same case with Devo Davis. If college has opened up another, not just an option, it's in some cases better. In fact, I would make the argument that unless you just really hate going to class, college will be a much more lucrative, better for your brand, get you more money, especially if you're a big time player, than what it would be going over into the G League in some instances. Now, Ron Holland's maybe the exception to the rule because he is the number 1, number 2 player in the country. But even if somebody like Devo, who did not get an invite to the NBA draft combine, if he decided to come back another year because he wasn't going to get drafted, I think that being at Arkansas another year will not only be able to help him develop just as much and get to play in front of crowds and all that, but he can make just as much money via NIL than he could, playing in a G League or something like that. Because it's that level of great, and it's able to provide that much. So college is, I believe, again, the route that people need to go. And I think that that's what Ron Holland's dealing with right now, where he could go to the G League and it'd be fine. And that's the thing is, if you're a number 1 player, and I know everybody's different, but if you're a number 1 player like Ron Holland, or a top tier player like Ron Holland, and Arkansas is even in the mix, and he's trying to get out of his national letter of intent to go to Arkansas, when if he went to the G League, he wouldn't have to worry about any of the hassle, wouldn't have to worry about class or anything like that. Like, why wouldn't he just go to the G League? I think it's because he, among so many other big time players that could be drafted into the NBA, or even take that out, even playing professionally somewhere and getting money, they see the ultimate great value in what college provides. For even if it's that 1 year, playing college basketball can give you more and provide you more than just, I'll go play in a G League, or I'll go play overseas, or whatever it is. Like, that to me has shown how much the game has changed. And I believe that someone like Ron Holland going to the U of A or Arkansas or wherever, I don't know if there's a certain like money amount or anything, but what I do know is that when he gets on campus, there's going to be plenty of NIL opportunities, and he's going to not only make a lot of money from that, but be able to be in front of a crazy crowd, have a great coaching staff, have great facilities, like all the stuff that comes along with it. So I believe that that's the way that they're going to go, and I believe that that's the route he'll ultimately end up going, is coming to Arkansas and playing in college. But I don't know. I just feel like a lot of people who don't understand and fully grasp the impact of NIL, like, think that, oh, well, no, kids still just like again, and this is just me, but like, if I'm a kid who is in the position to where I could go and play in the G League, or I can go play at Arkansas or some big time college, like I would rather play in college and make money and go through that and know that I'm going to be in front of a great crowd. And like, again, unless I just really do not want to go to class and do not want school. But if you're a 1 year player, it's not like you have to have a whole lot of varying like big time classes and like, senior level stuff to go through. So I don't know, maybe I'm looking at it differently than what a lot of people do, but I just believe that college has now, it hasn't evened the playing field, but it has certainly elevated itself to where I believe if you're a big time player, you would rather do college than go to the G League. That's just how I look at it. And I think that Ron Holland ultimately will make that decision. He will come to Arkansas and then everything will be great. And Arkansas's class is just going to continue to get better. And, we'll see. Because here's another thing, too. And looking in on this, like Hunter Dickinson is the prime example of that. Hunter Dickinson is not a player that's probably going to get drafted into the NBA. At least that's what people have looked at and scouted him and seen what he's been able to do. He's not necessarily an NBA caliber player or an NBA draftable player at this point in time. Things could change. But you know what he could have done? He could have like, well, okay, I'll just go to the G League. I'll go play overseas. It'll be fine. But he's like, I got value where I can do a lot more in college, make a lot more and have fun, like be here. There's so many players that have done that and decided to stay in college where, we could just go to the G League or go to play overseas. And they haven't done it, especially now in the NIL era, because it is such a lucrative thing. So don't give me this stuff of like, kids they just want to play professional no matter what it is. Okay, no. At the end of the day, especially when you're young, those young kids like that, you want to play and what gives you the best opportunities, the best atmosphere in front of fans with money and all those things that come along with it. And if you can make more money in college than you can in the G League, everyone's going to want to go to college. Like if you weighed them out, if you had took the top 5 players from each class out of high school, hey guys, G League or college? All right. Which one are you going to pick? Well, which one is paying more? That's where likely a lot of them are going to decide to go to. Because if it's just 1 year, right? It's just 1 year. So why not go to college and get more money out of it too? It makes sense. At least it does to me. But we'll find out about Ron Holland. But hopefully he gets out of his national letter of intent here very soon. And because I'm sure that they're making sure there was no foul play. Whatever that means. Anyways, we'll talk more about actually a question that was brought up to me from one of the listeners here in just a second. First, I got to tell you about folks about Built Bar, still the best there is when it comes to protein bars, and how incredible it is that anytime that you get a box of these, whether it's at Walmart or at Sam's Club or even online at Built.com, it's a game changer. It makes all the difference in the world when it comes to your snacks because it tastes amazing. That's the one thing that people don't realize just how great it is. It tastes amazing. And I promise you won't be disappointed when you try out this product. It is incredible. It tastes good. It's easy to deal with, and they have so many different flavors to choose from. So head over to Built.com or go to your local Walmart and Sam's Club. Get you a box of Built Bars right now with Built.com.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. A few things that have been thrown at me and questions that have been asked and all of that, which I've been having fun with, and I appreciate that. But one of these actually really fascinated me because this was something that I thought was or at least important to discuss and talk about. This came actually from Tim on Twitter, and he says, "Hey John, I like your podcast. I'd love to hear you break down how you predict the different forwards and how they will play together, and as well as Bay Fall. Not sure if he will have the role of forward or center. I liked your breakdown of how much playing time each will get, but I'm also interested in how their styles of play would mesh together with different pairs or trios on the court at the same time. Are there some combinations that you think would work better, or are there any combinations you think that would just happen to where people get in each other's way?" Which I think is a great question because, as we know, chemistry is so important and so valuable. And we also know that there are a lot of, different things that players can add and players can, be really good at, strengths and weaknesses and whatnot. It's just about putting the puzzle pieces together, which each and every year, once they figured it out, it really meshed well. So when you're talking about the forwards, let's just go through the ones that, of course, we know that are going to be on the team as of right now. You got Trevin Brazil, you got Jalen Graham, I guess Mekhi Mitchell. We'll count them. Still weird about that. You got those three guys, and then you have, of course, Bay Fall coming in as a true freshman, and we'll throw Ron Holland in there too because I think Ron Holland again is going to come here to Arkansas, so we'll go ahead and throw him into the mix just for fun. Well, let's go through. So you got about five guys that are really going to be true forward contributors in this thing. I know like Davenport might be as well, but let's just go with the ones that we kind of know about and the ones that we know for sure are going to get playing time because of either their experience, their talent level, or the upside. Trevin Brazil. We'll start with him. Trevin Brazil is kind of the all-around player. And I know he's coming off of an injury, but with his size and his length, his athleticism, and his ability to shoot threes while also going inside and getting buckets and getting alley-oops thrown up to him and all of that, like that's an awesome thing. Like to have just via like athletes. Like it's just you got a guy that can do it all. He can play defense, he can play offense. There was times he maybe got in a little bit of foul trouble last year, but I think that he'll get better again as the year goes on. But he's a do-it-all player. He's going to be a guy who's going to play and start on this team next year. I don't think there's any question about it. But the question, I guess, does become, where is he going to fit in? Are they going to try to put him in a 5 position? Are they going to leave him at a 4 position? Does he sometimes play at the 3? Because looking at a guy like Ron Holland, that dude's starting. All right? That dude is starting as well. And so I think that with Brazil, and we know about all of like his game and how there's not really many weaknesses to his game, shifting over to Ron Holland, I think Ron Holland would also fit more into that 3 spot, kind of that Jordan Walsh role. He's a bigger bodied guy, but it's his energy and his motor. He is really good. Like when it comes to his effort and his defense and rebounding, like that is it. And that's the type of player that you wanted to get and got a little bit out of Jordan Walsh. And that's kind of going to be the same thing of what they tried to look at and getting out of a great player, of course, in Ron Holland. So I think that you could see those 2 guys being on the court. And then it comes the 5 position. What do you do there? I think, assuming Mekhi Mitchell still on the team, and assuming that's the case, I think he still starts at the 5. And so you're talking about having Ron Holland, Trevin Brazil, and then Mekhi Mitchell being in that 3 spot. Now, does that mean that's for sure going to be the starters and that's going to be the way it is all season long? No, because we know Muss likes to mess around and see what fits. But I would love to see those 3 guys on the court because Mekhi Mitchell, as we know, has a pretty good defensive game. And when he needs to, he can be offensively driven. He led the team in block shots, so he was really good with that too. So he's just a solid, experienced player. And I think that that's what you need, especially at that spot. You don't have to worry about him going and getting 18 points a game. You don't even have to worry about him going out there and getting 10 plus rebounds a game, although that'd be great. He just needs to be solid, needs to be efficient, needs to just be a better version than what he was this past season, and it would be perfect. So those would be the 3 I'd love to see on the court at the same time, and I think that they would all gel really well because they have different roles to play, and they would also have, of course, great experience and athleticism, and also a lot of energy and motor. So after that, you kind of throw in, okay, Jalen Graham, we know is a great offensive player, could use and see a lot more, but he's a guy that can be capable of going inside and getting the bucket, and I think Muss actually does like him. Really likes him as a player, else he wouldn't have kept him on the team. So I think that he'll just be a dude that kind of did the same thing last year, hopefully in a better way, but come off the bench. Hey, if we need some offense, got a guy in foul trouble, whatever, go out there, but got to work on his defense, got to work on his rebounding, which I know is something they're going to hit really hard this offseason. So I think that will be kind of his role there too. And Bay is a great defensive player, a great post presence, a great guy that like you can count on in that regard too. But from what I understand, is he's very raw. Especially when it comes to his offense. So it's a nice thing to have where you got Jalen Graham, big time offensive player, and then a Bay Fall, more of a great defensive player to come in whenever it calls for them. Like if you're getting worked down low and having some problems defensively, boom, put in Bay Fall. If you're having issues where you can't get any offense going and maybe there's some more foul trouble with that, boom, hit in Jalen Graham. Like you're going to have a nice little combo there too. And so again, it's going to be tough to see how it all works out and how it all plays out with all of them. But I think that those are the types of players that they'll be and how it could work out. And I'd love to see as many of them on the court as possible just to see which one of them sticks, which we'll get from us. But we'll talk a little football about KJ Jefferson on the final segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So stay tuned.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. KJ Jefferson. We know that football is going to be upon us before we know it, and KJ is a phenomenal player that we all love and can't wait to see. And somebody asked me the other day, what's KJ Jefferson going to have to do this season to be an all-time great at Arkansas? Like, what's it going to take? What does he have to do? And I don't think there's just like one right answer to that. Because, you could say, oh, well, he's got to throw for 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. Like, I don't look at it that way. I'll do it this way instead. I'll take it one step further. Can he be an all-time great at Arkansas? And my response to that is yes. Arkansas, let's be honest, has not had a plethora of elite quarterbacks when it comes to NFL draft guys or even All-Americans or even All-SEC guys. Just being honest, they haven't. They've had some really great ones. Like Ryan Mallett, to me, is still the best quarterback to ever play at Arkansas. Tyler Wilson, Brandon Allen, really good. Austin Allen, too. I think, of course, go back with Matt Jones, different style. But, Quinn Sterner, like they've had really good guys, but never that next level elite. And then you come with KJ Jefferson, who's had 2 really good seasons so far at Arkansas. There's a chance that next season could be one that really separates himself and makes him into an all-time great. Because if Arkansas is able to bounce back from this past season and not only win more games, but even compete for something, like get to that 8, 9, like we'll just put it this way, he wins 10 games this year. Let's just go crazy with it. Arkansas wins 10 games this year, and it's including the bowl game. First double-digit win season since 2011. We'll go with that. If KJ does that, and KJ is a main reason and main part for why that happens and why it's going on, then yes, absolutely he'll be an all-time great. Because I think that because of that in his development, he'll get drafted. I think that there'll be teams that are really looking at a player like him with his athleticism and his ability. His experience has been great. And you think about the 3 years that he's had at Arkansas being the starting quarterback, he's had great moments, great highlights. It's a guy who's tough to bring down. He's never given any trouble and never been a problem and been a great teammate, and everybody loves him and everything. So, yeah, I think that he can be an all-time great this year. And who knows if he has a year like he could with, like, again, the absolute best season ever. Could be one of those that is remembered as the best quarterback that Arkansas's had in the SEC era, at least. Just saying it's possible. But, yeah, he can be a all-time great. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does with Dan Enos this year. Appreciate everybody listening into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter, BuzzJohnNabors, for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.